Hey garden friends, it's Landon Gilfillan here at Pepper and Pine Garden Design, and it is September 16th, if you can believe it. And I am still out here harvesting loads and loads of tomatoes. And so I thought I would bring you along today and talk through some of the varieties I've grown that I've decided I really like, some that are mediocre, and probably ones that I will not be doing in the future. And to tag on to that, I did a video earlier in the season right here talking about the different tomatoes that I was growing and the different time frames that I used. I started a lot of these tomatoes inside. I think I started them in March. Some of them I lost when we had a really late cold snap in April, and I restarted some of these tomatoes. I believe it was like in May. I can't remember the week. I'd have to look. So I wanted to give you an update on how those varieties are doing that I started in May, and if I'm getting enough fruit from them to actually make starting them that late viable. So let's dive in. So behind me here is tomato row, tomato alley, whatever word you want to attribute to it. I've got two like 30-foot rows next to each other of all different kinds of tomatoes. I believe I ended up planting about 62 plants, and in there about, I'm just going to estimate here, 15 varieties. I should know this. I forgot to count before I started the video. Right here is what I call sauce row. These are all my Romas, my Amish paste, and my crushed heart tomatoes that I use mainly for sauce. Down the end here, I've got gold medal tomatoes, Paul Robesons, some German pinks, Big Boy, and another variety I've forgotten we'll have to look at here in a second. And this has been a really prolific row. I love all the tomatoes that I've grown here on this, and I'll dig into it here more specifically in a minute. And then over here are more of my like fun varieties that I was just kind of trying this year. I've got my staple German pinks, my Paul Robesons as well. Those are the ones that pulled through the frost. I have lots of cherry tomatoes, sun golds, Napa Chardonnays, blueberry cherries, that was a surprise, my Mexico midget, as well as a new favorite, the Rapunzel, and I can't wait to talk about that one, and some other varieties that I've sprinkled in there. So by far, my favorite sauce tomato is definitely an Amish paste. Now this one is a fairly large one. I think this may have been a fused tomato. Maybe, I don't know. It is very large. It's probably a little more than a pound. Most of them are more this size and a little larger, but they're just so much meat. So to compare to like a Roma tomato, so you can see the size difference, this is a Roma tomato here on your left, I believe, and this is an Amish paste. So there's just much more meat to them, a larger size, and I personally just like the flavor. So I may or may not keep doing Romas just so I can have a variety of like different flavor nuances, but by far my favorite paste tomato or sauce tomato is an Amish paste. Another variety that I grow for sauce tomatoes is called a crushed heart. It's an ox heart tomato, so it's literally in the shape of a heart. And it is a really nice meaty tomato as well. It is beautiful because I just took in my ripe one, but it had these striations or stripes down the tomato, kind of a pink and a red and a green. It's a really beautiful tomato, but it also has much less seeds than your normal beefsteak and a really nice meaty texture and taste. So I really like to do those three in combination for a sauce or a paste tomato. I save those for like my pizza sauce or paste or things like that. And I really have been really pleased with those tomatoes. In the past, I have had problems with my Romas getting the blossom end rot, and it's generally not the whole plant. It's just kind of a hit or miss, and I don't know why that is with this particular variety. This year, these did a lot better, and I had a lot less of those with that blossom end rot, so I was really pleased for that. But I've always had a really good success rate with the Amish paste tomato. Another variety I tried this year for a couple reasons was the Tigerella. This one right here, you can tell it's more of a saladette, like a 2-3 ounce tomato. And it's got these really pretty orange, if I can get the sun on it, is orange and red striations on it, which is why they call it the Tigerella. This one is a plant that is ready like in 60 days from starting from seed. And the reason I chose this one was because I thought I had lost so many of my tomatoes. And so I was looking for varieties I was looking for varieties that I could grow like within my season and still have tomatoes to eat during the summer. And the Tigerella was one of them. So I have just been harvesting this tomato here in the last, probably week and a half. And again, it's September 15th. And I think I planted them in the ground somewhere in May. I had to go back and look at my calendar. So I felt like these took longer to get going. And although they seem fairly prolific, I'll show you the plant here in a second. I'm just now really getting these, and I'll do a taste test here at the end to see what I guess I could just do one right now. Okay, watch. So let's see how this tastes. I will tell you, I wish it was warmer outside. I find that hot or warm tomatoes taste a lot better than cold, but we're gonna give it a go.
Oh, yeah.
Mm. So when I initially bite into it, I get a nice tart flavor. Here, you want this one? Come here, eat this one. I get a nice tart flavor, but then it kind of mellows out as I get into it. So I'm going to say, as of right now, this doesn't really have a ton of flavor. I'm not too impressed. I do love how beautiful it is, and I love that it's a short season tomato, but it just doesn't have the flavor that I get from a lot of these other tomatoes. But let me show you the plant here because it is pretty prolific. So we've got two plants here, one here and one here, and there is a really good amount of fruit. Now I'm not going to be able to harvest all this fruit. I wouldn't imagine. If it's September 15th, we're already starting to get some really cool nights. I probably won't get to the full extent of this plant, but I did get some. So in that way, it is a good plant to try out. It's beautiful. It's a saladette. You can be eating on it in 60 days. So for those reasons, you could choose that, but I probably will not grow that again unless I absolutely have to. I'll probably pass the seeds on to someone else. But it's okay. It's not horrible. It's not the worst plant I've ever tasted. It just has a more of a mellow flavor, and I really like those really strong flavored tomatoes. Another tomato I love growing is called a pork chop. And this is a nice ripe version of the pork chop. And you're not going to be able to see it, but it starts off with this really pretty vibrant yellow and green stripes on it. And then as it ripens, those green stripes turn to more of a darker yellow. And on the vine, when it's green, it is just this beautiful striped green tomato. And these have a really lovely, like citrusy flavor. I love them plain. I also love them on a tomato sandwich. It's a great thing to add to a different, like a red tomato, if you want like a tomato salad to have a variety of flavors from your tomatoes. This pork chop is one of my favorite yellow tomatoes, and I will continue to grow these. A really beautiful tomato on the vine is the Black Beauty, hence the name. It is a beauty. It's got these lovely like purple black shoulders that ripen to a pink on the bottom. So it is like a two-toned tomato. And they're beautiful to look at, but I'll be honest, they're not my favorite tomato in the garden. They have an okay flavor. It's pretty subtle. So if you like subtle tomatoes, go for that one. But the other problem I have with it is almost all of them split on the bottom. So if I'm going to get them, I have to get them a little early to make sure they don't split. And I definitely have to make sure I harvest them before a rain, because this is what happens. So I probably will pass these seeds on to a friend. They're just not my favorite, and I don't want to take up garden space if I actually, don't enjoy the tomato that much. So a lot of people love these. They're just not my favorite because they're more of a mellow flavor. And although they're beautiful, I just don't need to take up space in my garden with these. Another variety I've really liked this year was the Big Boy. Now the Big Boy's been around for a long time. I know that my aunt's father-in-law grew the most beautiful, yummy tomatoes when I was a kid, and I found out recently that they were Big Boys. So this year I just decided to give it a try because I've never really grown those hybrid tomato types, and I will say that I have been pleasantly surprised with the Big Boy. They are very uniform in size, very uniform in color. They're just a really nice tomato, and they hold up really well. They haven't split. They ripen evenly. I haven't had any fused tomatoes. So I really do like the Big Boy tomato. And I also grew its cousin, the Beefmaster. I haven't been as impressed with that one, mainly because it succumbed to disease way quicker than any of the other plants. And while I did get a few fruits off of it that I did enjoy, it just stopped producing way earlier than the rest of them, and I've had to pull the plant from the garden. So I won't do the Beefmaster again, but I most likely will definitely, I definitely will try the Beef Boy, Big Boy again. Some other of my tomato favorites. I've grown these for such a long time and I love them. They're such a staple fruit. I love how meaty they are. And obviously their color is beautiful. And this is the gold medal. So the gold medal is, I don't know what you'd consider maybe an orange tomato. It has the really deep reddish orange on the bottom and then the sort of yellowish orange on the shoulders. And these tomatoes can get up to 3 pounds. In my history, I've had several 3 pounds, at least 2 a year. And this one right here is probably a 2-pounder. They do sometimes fuse, but when they fuse, they're still a really viable tomato that I can still use in the kitchen. And they have a lot less seeds than most of your beefsteak. So this is gold medal is a great tomato to grow. I also use a lot of my yellow tomatoes for like a yellow tomato jam that we make. A sweet and spicy yellow tomato jam that's just so amazing. So if I don't eat all these fresh, then I save them and make that yellow tomato jam. What do you think of your yellow tomato? Yep, you can have the rest of it. Thank you. This is more of the pork chop. And then a new variety that I grew this year for a friend was the lemon tomato. She just called it the lemon tomato. I'm not sure if it's lemon like the lemon boy, which I also grew this year. But I'm going to give this one a taste. Let's eat our tomatoes together. Ready?
No.
It's okay. This one's kind of mushier. It's not overripe or anything. It just doesn't have a nice firm texture. It's sweeter. I will say it's a sweeter tomato if you like sweet flavored tomatoes. They're not my favorite like the pork chop is. The pork chop the pork chop is definitely my favorite yellow tomato so far that I've grown in the past 4 years, and I'll continue to try them, but I probably won't grow that one again. And gold medal, pork chop and gold medal are my two favorite yellow orange tomatoes. Another one I grew this year was Rutgers. They've done okay. They've been around for a long time. They're, again, another saladette, probably 3, maybe 4 ounce tomato. They have not been very prolific. I grew them from a start, so I kind of assumed that they would do better, and they've done okay. They just, again, probably not another one that I'll grow just because it just doesn't do very much. No flavor. It may also be because it's later in the season, but this one, yeah, just doesn't have a lot of flavor on the first bite. So not too impressed with that. But I will tell you one variety that we've really liked, and this one's not very ripe, so I won't bite into it, is the Rapunzel. So the Rapunzel is called that because it has a long vine with multiple tomatoes on the vine, up to like 12. I think on average there are probably 8 to 10 on most of the vines. We had one plant, and that one plant brought in so many saladette tomatoes that tasted great. Had the acidity that I like. When you bite into it, you get that nice zing. That's what I want out of a tomato. They were really consistent in size and color. And they're really, oh, thank you. Thank you. I am definitely a fan of the Rapunzel. They did really well. One plant is all I grew, and just brought in tons and tons of these really nice saladette tomatoes that you can slice up and put on a salad or a taco or whatever. I will definitely be doing the Rapunzel again. Really nice flavor, really nice and firm, and again, consistent in size. And they're beautiful on the vine when they're ripening. So Rapunzel. Now cherry tomatoes. Cherry tomatoes sometimes don't make it in the house because we're just out here eating them off the vine just as we're in the garden. But when they really start kicking in, we just have been bringing in loads and loads of cherry tomatoes. And by far, the fan favorite is always the Sun Gold. So much flavor. So to eat a Sun Gold and then eat one of those other varieties I was showing you, there is no comparison in taste. The Sun Gold is sweet, just so full of flavor. I love, and will probably always grow a Sun Gold tomato.
Menu.
Thank you.
Manual.
Here, why don't you take a small one? There you go. Okay. So Sun Gold. Another favorite of mine over the years has been the Napa Chardonnay. You can see why it's called Chardonnay. It's this really pretty mellow yellow color. And these have more of a, I don't know how to describe it, almost like a savory sweet flavor. But a lot of flavor. There's definitely some tartness and acidity there, which I really like. So in comparison with the Sun Gold that's more sweet, this is more tart, but just full of flavor. Just so full of flavor. So it's hard to say what's my favorite. It depends on my mood. If I'm in the mood for sweet, I'm gonna go for Sun Gold. If I'm in the mood for tart and like, just make you kind of, I'm gonna go for Napa Chardonnay. And they're both prolific. We need to put more in there. This over here, there's a bunch over here. Another variety that I've always grown is the Mexico Midget. Let me see. So the Mexico Midget is really just a true red cherry tomato. And how would I describe it? Not as acidic as the Napa, definitely not as sweet as the Sun Gold. It kind of falls right in the middle there. It still has a lot of flavor. So probably more like your cherubs that you get at the grocery store. That's sort of middle of the road, but still flavorful, really flavorful cherry tomato. So it just kind of like fills the gamut. You've got the really sweet, really nice and tart, and then that Mexico Midget right in the middle, but it still packs a punch with flavor. The other one that I grew sort of mistakenly this year is the blueberry cherry. Now, I've grown these every year because they intrigued me. They're super prolific. You can plant them in May and have a ton of fruit by the end of the summer. And they're beautiful in that they have this really nice blue purplish cast on the shoulders, and they ripen to almost look exactly like the Mexico Midget. I have to really look at them to be able to tell the difference. There's just a little bit of purple left in there. So these have been okay. They're not my favorite. They're just okay. They're middle of the road. They have a lot of flavor, but they just don't intrigue me as much as the Sun Gold and the Napa Chardonnay. And actually, I don't know how I grew those this year because I did not plan on growing them. I don't know if I mixed seed up or if somehow some reverted. I have no idea. I have a ton of blueberry cherries in my garden that I did not intentionally plant. So I'm just wondering if I somehow mixed the seed up. But a lot of people like them. They're just not my favorite. Right now, I will continue to try different cherry tomatoes, but right now, by far, my favorite are the Sun Gold, the Napa Chardonnay, and the Mexico Midget. Some other varieties that I grew this year, just for fun, were the Old German, Chef's Choice Orange, and the Pineapple. And they're so interesting. Like, I see fruit on the vine, but they're taking forever to ripen. I do think I harvested a few, but they kind of got caught up in the mix of all the other tomatoes I was growing, and I didn't really get to do a flavor check on them. But as far as like, you know, how much fruit is on the vine, it's hard to say. I just haven't really got a ton. I see some in here. I see one that's kind of starting to turn orange, but just kind of like a hit or miss variety. Whereas my old standards, the German Pink, the Gold Medal, Paul Robeson, Pork Chop, those are all just really prolific varieties that, I mean, I am picking from every single day, if not, you know, all season long once they get going. So, you know, maybe in the future I'll try again, but those three varieties, the Old German, the Pineapple, and Chef's Choice Orange, as well as Boxcar Willie, it was another one that didn't really do anything, and Sir Speedy. That was supposed to be one that was ready in 50 days, and we did get 2 tomatoes off of that in 50 days, but then it didn't do anything after that. So those varieties were just kind of meh and didn't really do anything. And like I said, I may have eaten one of those orange tomatoes, but used it more in like a salsa recipe instead of fresh eating. So I can't report too much on those other than they just really haven't done that much on the vine. That's what you're looking at here. So we'll see. I may have another report for you at the end of the season if we end up getting anything at all. So that's really it here on the tomato front. I have brought in boxes and boxes and boxes of tomatoes into my house on a very regular basis. The minute I get my whole entire counter cleaned off, I bring in a whole slew more the next day. And it's just been going at that pace really since the beginning of the season. So we had originally intended on doing a farmer's market stand this year, which is why I did so many, and then we didn't do it. So I had more tomatoes than I probably needed, but I sold a lot, gave some to friends, and I've just been trying to put away as much as possible. So next year, I will definitely be doing the ones I mentioned that I love, the German Pinks, Gold Medal, Pork Chop, Rapunzel, Sun Gold, Napa Chardonnay. I'm sure I'm missing one in there, Amish Paste, Roma. But there are some new varieties that I'm really, really excited to try. Some varieties that were suggested in the book Epic Tomatoes. I've already ordered the seeds and have them in my house. And so you'll have to wait for another video to see what those varieties are. But I will be including those in the mix next year and probably getting rid of some of the ones that I tried this year. But I would say it was a win-win no matter what, because I have a ton of tomatoes. I've made some amazing sauces and put away a lot of food for the winter, and that was my ultimate goal. So as always, my name is Landon Gilfillan here at Pepper and Pine Garden Design, growing gardeners and their gardens, and I'll see you in the next video.